You're listening to the DCAU Review, hosted by Cal and Liam. Streaming on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and at DCAUreview.com. Now, here's today's episode.
Welcome, everybody, to bonus episode number 11. I am one of your hosts, Cal, and with me, our co-host, my good brother, and close personal friend, and the biggest Tim Drake fan I have ever met. That's right, it's my good brother, Liam. Liam, welcome to bonus episode number 11.
That's right, we have just a myriad of things to talk about this week. It's going to be lots of fun. We're diving into the next two digital chapters of Batman The Adventures Continue, which will make up issue number 6 when it comes out in physical form, and is parts 3 and 4 of this Red Sun Rising storyline, where we learn the official, definitive DCAU origins of Jason Todd, the second Robin.
At least until proven not canon by some other digital property in the future.
Exactly.
All right, Liam. So as you stated, yes, this is Red Sun Rising parts 3 and 4. If you have not read these yet, by all means, please stop what you're doing. Don't listen to this episode. Go check out the comics. They are, even if you, Liam, we've talked about this throughout the entire thing, even if you don't love the story or the derivative nature of the story, the artwork alone from Ty Templeton and Monica Kubina, who we always schmooze up to here on this program, but it's for good reason, is to me is worth the 99 cents to drop on a digital version of these comics.
Yeah, no doubt. We've said that probably on every single bonus episode we've done covering this series, but yeah, just the chance to live in this world a little longer and to see new stories being told, that's fun. And yes, you really can't beat the art team as well. So it's been a lot of fun. It's definitely been a net positive, no matter what you think of. I think of the story creatively. I think, and again, I don't think either of us hated it or anything, but we'll get into that as we get into reviewing this episode. But certainly, even if you just flat out hate it, I still think there's a lot of pretty pictures for you to look at, and obviously it's more DCAU content, so we're always going to be excited and advocate to support that and vote with your wallet, as they say.
That's right. One of the things that we can throw out there that we've talked about on each of the prior bonus episodes, all of which you can check out in the archives at DCAUreview.com or on your favorite podcast app. Just check out the bonus episode section. Liam, we've talked about the title cards that they've used for the digital first issues. Of course, a direct homage to the original title cards from Batman the Animated Series. The one for Red Sun Rising Part 3, I think, may be my favorite thus far. It's an image of Batman swinging in front of the red Gotham skies, possibly the sun or the moon, depending on how you look at it. But just a beautiful, beautiful shot with sort of a white highlight against the black silhouette of the rest of his costume. Reminds me a lot of some of the Phantom City creative stuff that artist and those artists have done for Mondo tees and some of the posters and stuff like that they've done with them. So really, really cool start for part 3. So remember, these are chapters 11 and 12, parts 3 and 4, as you said, that end up making up book 6 in the physical copy here, which should be in stores in November, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here we go. Let's jump into the plot of this one, Liam. So we get the return of a couple of Batman the Animated Series characters, which I thought was great. We start off with seeing a visit from one Dr. Leslie Tompkins.
Yeah, that's cool. Some of these characters that were kind of integral or were recurring, at the very least, in the original Batman the Animated Series, we never really got to see in the new Batman Adventures, save for maybe a cameo here or there. So yeah, it was interesting to have him go to see Leslie, and I guess we kind of see where that relationship soured a bit over the years as she sort of became very sort of became very sort of disheartened by Batman sort of continually taking on these young partners, especially in light of, as it turns out, she was aware of Jason and had helped patch him up. She mentions that Jason was so reckless. He had more injuries in 2 weeks than Dick Grayson had in his entire career as Robin, and so it seems like this tragedy that befalls Jason Todd may have sort of led to, and you can sort of fill in some blanks here and think maybe that's why we didn't see Leslie very much in the new Batman Adventures. This sort of falling out or sort of it just changed. I guess Jason sort of changed her perspective on Bruce and on the whole mythos of Batman.
Yeah, there's a point where Bruce goes to visit Leslie to sort of inform her that he's discovered that Jason is in fact alive, and we get more of the backstory going through as to why he thought he was dead as we move through the comic, of course. But there's a point where in their conversation that Leslie suggests that it's time for him to lay Batman to rest. And that she asks him to leave eventually because she's kind of getting all fired up about him placing youngsters in harm's way, and she saw some warning signs that sort of suggested that Bruce maybe had selected somebody that was a little bit more reckless than Dick had been, and so she really saw the warning signs as sort of similar to the way that Alfred sort of did in prior issues, that Jason was sort of maybe the wrong choice for Bruce to pick as a Robin, but Batman sort of didn't heed that advice. He does sort of defend himself, saying that he was going to pull Jason off the streets for good, and that's when he sort of split. But I think the intimation there is that he sort of should have known better to begin with, which is sort of what Alfred alluded to, as we said in prior issues.
Yeah, and we actually see that later in chapter 12, part 4 of Red Sun Rising. We see when Tim Drake, after hearing Jason's sort of origin recounted to him, points out in a very meta moment, this is literally the same as my story, right down to being this kid who was living on the streets and was had run afoul of these criminals, and all the way down to stealing the Robin suit, when he puts it on for the first time, and how why would Bruce take me in if he had gone through this with Jason, and Alfred sort of tells him, well, because we knew you were different. We knew if we had thought for even 1 second that you would turn out like Jason, we wouldn't have allowed you to put the suit on. Which I guess that they do their best. I mean, we're kind of jumping around in the plot here, but they do their best, I think, to, despite their very similar origins, they do kind of show the stark differences between Jason and Tim, despite them both being sort of sons of criminals who run afoul of Batman on the streets and then are taken in. So they do, I think, do a pretty good job of, as we see through these flashbacks, and then Alfred's conversations with Tim, sort of explain that, yes, while Dick Grayson, Jason, and Tim all had this sort of tragedy befall them when they were young, and which led to Batman taking them in, that Jason just had this extra anger and vengeful side and recklessness that neither Dick nor Tim had, and that's sort of what led to his downfall.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but at least in the original introduction of the Jason Todd character in standard DC continuity, wasn't he a member also of a flying troupe that was killed, known as the Flying Todds? Okay.
Yes, the pre Crisis on Infinite Earths origin was, he was literally the same character, just with a different name, because they wanted to have a younger Robin in the books, but they had sort of at that point editorially had made the decision to age up Dick Grayson, as he was already in like the Teen Titans books, and they had sort of aged him up even in the main Batman books to be a college student by that point. So yeah, this was like the compromise was like, all right, we want to introduce a character that's the same but younger. But we don't want to like de-age Dick Grayson, so we'll make a character that's exactly the same as him. So to your point, there is a great history of introducing a new Robin that has the exact same origin as the old Robin.
Yeah, I mean that certainly is not an excuse for sort of what could be construed as creative laziness, or just, the derivative nature, as we stated, of the Jason Todd origin. But it is at least great that they didn't try and just sweep it under the rug and say, oh, look over here, this isn't the same. It's basically the same thing, but we're not going to acknowledge that. Yeah, they had to acknowledge it, and I think that the way they end up acknowledging is at least it got a little bit of a pass for me, at least, although it's sort of shuffled through, as we'll get through as we move through the plot here. But yeah, as you said, the differences that Alfred was talking about, we see after Jason left at the end of the previous issue and taking the Robin costume and punching Batman in the face and all that. We see that he's struck out on his own, and he's decided to become his own young teenage vigilante, except he's taken his violent streak to a new high as he begins roughing up even more of Batman's rogues gallery. We see an interaction with the original Batman the Animated Series version of the Penguin. We see him shooting a grappling gun through who we can assume maybe Kirk Langstrom's Man-Bat. We're not sure, based on the fact that, as far as we know, he was cured in Batman the Animated Series. We talked about that recently on our episode Terror in the Skies, that he didn't make an appearance in the new Batman Adventures, so one could assume that he was cured for good. But again, there were tie-in comics that had him returning in various forms. So
Kirk and Francine are, I believe, at Bruce Wayne's wedding in the chemistry episode.
That's right. I forgot about that. Good pull there. But so we don't know. But regardless, he pops up in here, and then there's a Clock King appearance also, which was interesting. So, and then maybe the craziest thing I've seen in a Batman or in a DCAU Batman tie-in comic panel, we see Robin sporting what looks like some sort of semi-automatic weapon or automatic weapon, and just going ham on Killer Croc, just pumping him full of lead.
Yeah, he goes, and by this I mean the Al Pacino version, he goes Scarface on him. Like, he just pumps him full of lead, leaves him for dead. We get some pseudoscience explanation of how Croc survived, but and we talked about this off the air when this first chapter came out, chapter 11. Do we think that he was so wounded that he sort of like molted and mutated, and that's why he looks so different in the new Batman Adventures?
I think it has something to do with that being in that nasty Gotham Harbor water for just hours at a time. It just, like, the toxins or whatever in the water there mutated his skin and turned him green.
Okay, yeah, I can see that too. I mean, we know there's just like stuff poured into the, Clayface turned to mush, and then he like floats through the river and gets chemicals poured on him and becomes solid again. Like, yeah, there's a history. We know there's just tons of chemicals. Ace chemicals. When Jack Ryder gets turned to the Creeper, he ends up just washing out into the river. So, yeah, I mean, all drains lead to the Gotham Harbor. So I'm sure there's plenty of just terrible, terrible chemicals in that water that Croc was exposed to.
There you go. Well, that makes as much sense. Remember, canon until proven otherwise. Here,
that's right.
We get a very violent appearance from Jason Todd there, and then we actually get another cameo appearance from a Batman the Animated Series character, one that we saw courtesy of Ty Templeton's Instagram, but one that you probably wouldn't have assumed would make an appearance, Liam. That would be one Sid the Squid.
That's right, from an episode we have not yet covered, but probably one of everyone who has watched Batman the Animated Series' favorite episodes. The Man Who Killed Batman. He's sort of this unassuming, like, rookie, never was crook who sort of keeps stumbling through this dumb luck into sort of confrontations with every major criminal in Gotham, and even appears at one point to have accidentally killed Batman. And it's one of the more memorable episodes of the whole series, which of course was a Paul Dini script. I know Mark Hamill has pointed that out as maybe his favorite episode of the whole series. So definitely a classic moment. And yeah, just again, it's one of those things where it didn't need to be Sid the Squid. It could have just been some random thug that Batman's interrogating.
Right.
But the fact that you put it in, it reminds me of, I guess, spoiler alert, when the Phantasm shows up for 2 seconds in Epilogue. Like,
right.
It didn't need to be that character, but it's just a fun little wink and a nod that if you've been watching and reading and paying attention to all these series over the years, it's like, hey, that's a really cool little nod to throw in there.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's just what they call fan service, Liam.
Mm-hmm.
So we are then sort of transported as Alfred continues to tell the tale of what happened, of a sort of side story between Harley and Joker that sort of alludes to them having a bit of a breakup. Jason swoops in, and it turns out, Liam, it may or may not have been a trap set by Harley and the Joker in order to capture Jason Todd. We then actually get the origin of Jason's white hair. Also,
that's right. Yeah, we get that Joker's electrified joy buzzer apparently just put that white streak right in the front of his hair. He had previously had like a brownish reddish streak to it, and then post that little shock therapy, he is we get to see his white hair there, and that's sort of where the first digital chapter 11 ends, is with the Joker and Harley having sort of reunited and having captured this new vengeful, violent Robin.
Yeah, I will mention one thing before we move on to the next chapter, and that is, so for this issue, we talk about the artwork a lot. We talked about some of the cameos and stuff. I thought it was interesting. It looks like in this issue that there's a Mark Morales who gets credit. He's the first anchor to get credit on this series. And the artwork actually, at least especially in that first opening scene with Leslie, stood out a little bit. I don't know if that's solely what he was working on or why he was not credited in the next issue. The artwork is, to me, looked a little bit different. Like maybe he had added some stuff, or how the inking worked or whatever sort of adjusted Ty's artwork from the start there. So what did you think of the look of it? I preferred kind of I prefer the artwork from the other issues. It's not bad. It's just this has a little bit more detail, I feel like, which is sort of not what the new Batman Adventure style is. There's it's more streamlined. There's less detail. That was the whole point of them changing the style there. Did you notice any difference? Did you enough to have an opinion on it?
No, I wouldn't say I had a real strong opinion one way or the other. I do kind of see what you mean. I feel like there was a little more detailing, like in the faces.
Yeah, for sure.
Both in Leslie and in the little girl, Kiri, I think they say her name is, or Carrie maybe, that Batman meets as he goes into the clinic. There's definitely maybe a little extra detailing in the faces, a little sharper lines and things like that. But yeah, nothing that I thought was bad. But yeah, I think it looks a little different. And I guess that's the difference between Ty Templeton inking his own work and someone else inking it, is you're just going to get a slightly different feel. But no, I didn't have a big problem with it one way or the other.
There you go. Carrie, by the way, reminded me a little bit of Bumblebee. I don't know if you got that vibe or not.
Yeah, she had the striped shirt and the big pom-pom pigtail hairstyle. Yep. I thought maybe that was a little nod to that. Yeah, so that was. But yeah, that is a fun little scene to start it out. Is it's sort of juxtaposed with Leslie being just really unhappy to see him, but this little girl who's so excited that she gets to say she met Batman. And of course, just to sort of twist the knife a little bit, she goes, "Oh, I'm not scared of him. Batman would never hurt a kid."
Love it. Yeah. All right. So moving on, Liam, Part 4, Chapter 12. Man, it's hard to keep these things straight. Of Red Sun Rising opens up, and man, if Jason doesn't look a little bit like, spoiler alert for Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, if he doesn't look a little bit like Tim Drake in the same situation that he found himself in Batman Beyond Return of the Joker.
Yes, but thankfully the Joker is at very least not dressed like a cook this time.
Good point. Yeah. Harley, however, is dressed up like a psychiatrist, so this is the point where we talk about how, well, we've been begging and sort of, we certainly have not been the only ones. A lot of people in the DCAU community was sort of hoping for some sort of different story origin for Jason. And to their credit, they sort of do veer off in a slightly different direction than the standard Death in the Family storyline originally was. But we were hoping for something vastly different. And unfortunately, we get a lot of the same, and also a little bit, like I mentioned here and alluded to, of the Batman Beyond Return of the Joker Tim Drake storyline. I thought that at least this part here with Harley, where she's sort of quote unquote diagnosing him as a psychiatrist would, and why he's got his anger issues, and the Joker playing along with it and alluding to Batman wanting to turn every child into Robin, I thought was really funny. So I felt like their back and forth there, the Harley and the Joker back and forth, was really good. In my head, of course, I could hear Mark Hamill and Arlene Sorkin going back and forth on it. I thought that part was written really well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's that feels pretty quintessential to the Joker Harley relationship, and as we sort of go through the issue there, and Harley kind of gets a little more squeamish about it going forward, and as it becomes clear that the Joker doesn't plan on letting him go or just roughing him up and setting him back on the streets, Joker sort of goes over the list of Penguin and Croc and Clock King and all these people that he's brutalized, and he says this is self-preservation, like this kid isn't gonna stop until he kills every one of us, so we've got to kill him. And that sort of leads Harley down a path that she's not quite ready to go that far yet. And so she is sort of taken out of the room as he continues to beat Jason with of course the trademark crowbar, and that leads to finally kind of the part where the paths sort of diverge from the classic Death in the Family storyline, which is that actually Batman does arrive in time this time. Robin is still alive when Batman gets to the scene and sort of bursts into the room as Joker is still sort of mid-beating.
Yeah, that's the part that, like I said, the expectation and the hope was maybe that this story of Jason would be different, and we didn't get that too much. This, however, did at least satisfy that for me, in that, okay, so they didn't go just straight up, the Joker blows him up, Batman arrives and finds his burned dead corpse, in the rubble. He gets there in time, and Jason, while it appears that he's dying, he's in a flaming, the flaming warehouse that they are in, stuff has started falling. The Joker ends up being involved in an explosion, and a car lands on top of him. So Batman goes to sort of help Jason. Jason says he's dying, but that he wants, as a final request, very similar to the way that he himself was sort of had this personal vendetta against the wolves, and since then every other criminal in Gotham, to rid them in honor of his late brother Danny Todd, that he wants Batman to avenge his death by going and killing the Joker. And Batman tells him, well, we don't kill, his standard line, we don't kill, that's not what we do. then I'm no better than him. And Jason actually comes back with, come on, man, like, you will never be the Joker. Like, one
Right.
death, one killing doesn't make you the Joker, which I thought, okay, that's a little nuanced. That's a little different. I appreciate that. Like, even in Under the Red Hood, when spoiler alert if you haven't read that, but there comes a point where Jason confronts Batman and begs him to kill the Joker. He begs him for everything that the Joker did to him to kill him. And of course Batman refuses, but he sort of appeals to the, look what he did to me. How could you not kill him based on what he did to me? But in this, he says, he sort of appealed to that idea that, well, Batman's next logical thought is, well, that doesn't make me any different than the Joker. So in this, he says, well, it does, because you'll never be the Joker. You'll never turn into that madman, and you'll never be the same person the Joker is, which is an interesting thought, but it's sort of not really, there's not a lot of time to think about that or lay out on it. Batman goes and uses the crowbar. It sort of alludes to maybe, if this was an animated episode, the tension would build up with Batman holding the crowbar there in front of the Joker and then jamming it under the car to lift it up. So the tension really doesn't last too long. Jason is pissed off, and then the explosion happens, and he's not seen again. Batman begins digging through the rubble, and Alfred continues to tell Tim that he searched for weeks. So we kind of already heard that in past issues, but so he was assumed dead, but didn't know whether or not he actually was dead or not.
Yeah. So, and I guess we have one more issue after this, 2 more digital chapters. So. Yeah, but it does appear that perhaps we are not doing he was literally dead and brought back to life via either the Lazarus Pit or some reality-altering punches thrown against a wall, I think was how he came back in the comics. Infinite Crisis, great book. Very silly, but a great book. It was a very fun, silly time in DC Comics. But anyway, so it appears maybe he was just able to sort of disappear and sort of get into the wind before Batman could find a trace of him. So yeah, so I guess we could talk about this now. This is sort of the main crux of everything, and as I already talked about, there's a very meta line where Tim yells at Alfred that his and Jason's stories are so similar, and of course with the benefit of hindsight / foresight, I guess technically, if we're going by the actual DCAU timeline, we know where this Tim Drake Robin story ends, right? He ends up in a very similar situation.
We think we do.
Right. Only instead of being killed by the Joker, he is sort of turned into this Joker Jr. and sort of his sanity is broken, and that ultimately leads to him shooting the Joker in the finale of that flashback in the Batman Beyond Return of the Joker movie. So, and even at the time, you can go back and listen to our episode 70, I believe, in our archives at DCAUreview.com. I noted how this is the DCAU's take on Death in the Family, and how it was really interesting to go right up to the edge of just having Joker kill him and then take that hard left turn, and how interesting of a choice that was. And now we find out that there actually was a real quote unquote death in the family in at least as far as Batman knew, that being this mysterious second Robin, who was literally killed. I mean, obviously, in the end, the Joker doesn't kill him. He throws a can of hydrogen into a fire and sort of blows them all up. Robin sort of blows himself up. That's how Jason appears to have died in this. Right. In this story, so it's not a one-to-one comparison with the comic book Death in the Family, but it is so similar, and I guess you can say maybe that's why they put in that stuff about Harley being so squeamish about killing him,
Right.
And so the next time they got a hold of a Robin, rather than try to kill them, the Joker decides, well, let's just make him our son instead. I guess you can say like that's Harley's influence on the Joker character.
Yeah, I guess. Like I remember there's a conversation in Batman Beyond Return of the Joker also that Harley, as she's running through Arkham and Batgirl is chasing her, she says, how could you do this, Harley, or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
Harley responds sort of, oh, we just had a little fun. We just roughed him up a little bit. So yeah, it kind of lends to that. It also sort of lends, I guess, maybe to her, like, the Harley Quinn and Batman movie a little bit too, and the explanation of why she's not a straight up villain in that. I don't know, but obviously that takes place also before before Tim and gets turned into
Right.
Joker Jr. So it's hard to say. I guess maybe because of the popularity of the Harley Quinn character and her anti-hero status that she's sort of been turned into over the last decade or so, they didn't want to straight up make her this terrible, awful person. It's also Paul Dini writing his own creation, so maybe him recognizing the nuance in the Harley character that, yeah, she's crazy and she loves the Joker, but it's a different type of crazy. Her obsession with the Joker and her desire for him to love her doesn't automatically mean that she's just going to kill a kid like for him.
Right.
So I guess I don't know. That's all we can do is speculate, and that's all that we do here on this. But that would be my explanation or my headcanon for why she sort of doesn't agree with straight up killing Jason.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. I mean, she's obviously violent and insane, just as he is. But yes, she's, as you said there, I think that's a good way of putting it. She obviously has certain lines that she feels that she still won't cross, despite being sort of pledging herself to this madman. So yeah, I mean, that's interesting. That's another thing that maybe would be interested in exploring in potential future follow-up movies or comics, like, because again, sort of as we know, if this timeline is she's with the Joker for a long time, eventually she strikes out on her own and kind of goes straight for a while, and then ends up back with him by the time the Return of the Joker flashbacks happen. So it would kind of be interesting to see more of like a I guess like a Harley anthology of exactly what exactly her thought processes and her leaving and going back to him over and over again. I thought that was really interesting. But
sure,
yeah, from there, like we said, it's not a 1-to-1 recreation of Death in the Family, but the result is the same. Because of the Joker, Batman is Robinless again, and then we sort of cut back to present day where Tim is still kind of uneasy about things, but appreciates that Alfred finally told him the truth. And it appears that Batman arrives to sort of agree with Alfred and begins to apologize, which Tim immediately sees through, because Batman would never apologize for anything. And it turns out that it's Jason in the Batman suit, and he knocks out Alfred with a batarang and then is able to defeat Tim pretty easily. And the final image, which is actually also the cover for the digital chapter 12 here, is Jason in the bat suit dragging an unconscious Tim up the stairs into Wayne Manor with Tim in one hand and Tim's Robin suit in the other, and that sort of sets up what will apparently be our final confrontation here, coming in issue 7, chapters 13 and 14. That being Jason wanting Batman to sort of make a choice to either, as we know now, we've seen the synopsis for the 7th issue that came out for the DC Solicits for December. That Jason is basically going to make Bruce an ultimatum, that being, you can finally right this wrong, you can finally kill the Joker, or Jason might just go ahead and kill Tim. So that certainly sets up an interesting confrontation for what will be the finale of this story.
Yeah, I hope there's some sort of, like, I don't know. We've talked about this. We've enjoyed this comic overall. Yes, it's a little bit frustrating to try and figure out how it fits into actual continuity, how it fits into the story, how things we've already seen that have happened that have been sort of left by the wayside. We've talked about that ad nauseum. But with that said, I'm excited to see how this ends up. I want to see a battle between Batman and Jason, especially the way that their last confrontation at the end of the prior chapter ended, and what it looks like going forward. And so, as you said, that's supposed to be the final issue. We did see Ty Templeton comment this week on Instagram. Someone asked him if issue 7 would be it forever, and he said that it's kind of in the hands of the. I mean, that's a good way to sell comics, of course, but it's in the hands of the people, and if you support the comic, and there's a good chance that DC will look at that and say, maybe we should create more content from this universe, and that he seems to be open to do more, which is great. So who knows? If you can support this, if you can buy the digital versions, they're $1 each, so you can get the whole set. So far there's been 12 digital issues of this, as we've said, chapters. You get the whole set for $12, or you can buy these as they come out. We've gotten through issue 4, I think it's out. Through issue 4. Issue 4 just came out in physical stores, so that's a good way to not only support the line, but also support your local comic shop if you have one. Go check that out. Pick up a physical copy there. But Liam, the last thing we'll leave it here before we talk about art is, if you had to fantasy book, as we'd say, or fantasy write how this ends, how would you end this comic? How's it going to end?
Well, this is also the problem with introducing new characters in the middle of a timeline.
Right.
I think Jason has to die.
Right.
For real this time.
Yeah, that's the only thing that makes sense. He's never mentioned again and never shows up again in any sort of media that exists thus far.
So he either has to die or disappear again, or you have to have some sort of come to Jesus moment where he throws down his guns and his helmet and apologizes and then goes and lives a normal life. Those are kind of your only options. Obviously if you want to go the happy ending route, that Bruce and maybe even Tim are finally able to get through to him and he sort of abandons his crusade. But obviously we never hear of this character again. So it would be you can't just say, well, he's still out there, we just never talk about him again.
Right.
You could. Unless you could.
Yes. That would be very silly though.
But if he's just if you just throw him in Arkham or whatever at the end of the issue, or I don't know, he goes and joins Task Force X or something. I guess you could do that if you wanted and sort of flesh out potential future sequel comics and stories to tell. But to me, I would like this, since this is, as far as we know right now, at least for this particular story, this is the end. I would like a definitive ending one way or the other. I would not like something that's open-ended. I would like you to just so I would say you kill him, you can rehabilitate him, and he goes off to just live a normal life, or you kill him. I think those are your two options.
That makes the most sense to me based on what we just discussed. So here's the other thing. So we know there are several characters, and we'll get to this in a second. Several characters that haven't existed. Maybe you just throw that are supposed to pop up in this series that have not yet been revealed, or that have not actually shown up in the comics yet. So maybe you throw him into an alternate universe and you create the Infinite Crisis thing, and he's got to bash through a wall that he just can't get through by punching. But not really. So those two things seem like the only possible. He has to die. Even if it's we don't know if he's actually dead or not type situation, which rehashing that again would be kind of dumb also. But yeah, I think he's got to die, whether it's the Joker. Does Batman kill him though? Because that they alluded to that at the end of that last issue, that Jason's not going to stop until Batman kills him.
I feel like it's gonna be like the Spider-Man movies. You know how the villains in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies always manage to kill themselves at the end of it to wrap up the story?
Yes.
Because inevitably they had found out Peter's secret, and you couldn't have that character continue to exist in the world knowing what he knows.
Right.
So they all had to die.
Right.
That's kind of my thought, is like, I don't know, you'll do something where, and I guess, I mean, that's kind of the way the story ends in the Under the Red Hood book. Obviously, he comes back and becomes sort of this recurring vigilante, but that first story ends with, you know, him grabbing the Joker and, you know, demanding Batman make a decision, either kill him or kill the Joker, and ends up the place ends up blowing up again, and it's sort of left very ambiguous as to where he go, you know, after, if whether or not he survived or not. But so yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I think I would like a definitive ending one way or the other, and so to me, you can do a happy ending here, and you can have him talk it out, or you can kill him. I think those are your two options.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. All right, so I alluded to it before, Liam. Obviously, this comic came about because of the DC Direct / DC Collectibles action figure line that was announced. So there were several figures from that series that were announced or that were shown that have not yet appeared in comic form. So I'm just going to throw a couple at you. You can give me yes or no. Do these characters appear in the final issue? Okay. And the answer could be no to all of them. I'm just curious on your thoughts if any of them appear. Okay. So we have Talon.
No.
No? Okay. We have Hush.
No.
We have the Batman Who Laughs.
Maybe.
Okay. Do you think Jason turns into the Batman Who Laughs?
That, or I do have this idea that there's going to be like a post-credit scene, and we'll find out that maybe, like, yeah, there's this force of alternate Batman is out there somewhere.
Okay.
And that's sort of going to be our open end. Because I do feel like there's going to be some sort of open ending to this story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's literally called The Adventures Continue. So I could see that. I could see there being some sort of allusion to this larger world of alternate Batman near the end.
Okay. So in that case, then Vampire Batman.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. So yeah, maybe. So we got a couple maybes and we got a couple no's. So very interesting here. We will see whether or not the adventures do indeed continue after these 7 issues here. So we shall find out. But Liam, let's quickly talk about what we talk about every single time. We've already mentioned it a little bit with the artwork here. Of these 2 chapters, what stood out for you for artwork, and which did you have a favorite between the 2 of them?
I'd probably say chapter 12. Like I said, I liked the art in both issues. I didn't think there wasn't as much, you know, spectacular stuff as there were, I felt like, in the last couple issues. It was, you know, a lot more sort of talking and dealing with, and not that there wasn't some fun stuff. I thought Joker and Harley being on a date at like a carnival was funny, and there's some fun stuff in there. I liked I shouldn't say I liked it, but I was impressed by the brutality of the Joker. It's one of those things where I'm still so used to, like, Fox Kids or Kids WB standards and practices violence in these shows and comic books. So to see him just, like, brutally beat the hell out of a child with a crowbar, and you can see, like, his cheekbone is, like, jutting out, and he's missing teeth, and you can see just, like, blood spewing everywhere. Like, it's quite violent and quite brutal. it has to be one of, if not the most brutal scenes in any DCAU thing that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's quite brutal. Yeah, impressive. Yeah, is certainly, the artwork is, it's a little much at times. Like you said, his face is a little bit disfigured and his eye is like swollen shut. But yeah, he got smashed in the face with a crowbar. I guess that makes sense as to why his face looks the way that it does. And I guess that's where his little cheek scar comes from in the drawings.
I guess so.
Beaten in the face with a crowbar. Yeah, I would agree with you. I think the thing that stood out for me that I've loved, and a lot of it is the way that Monica continues to color it, is the fire, like scenes with fire. There's a lot of scenes we've had. Fireflies made a lot of appearances, been a lot of explosions, a lot of fire in this series, and the way that she does the coloring, the warmth of that fire really stands out. Especially with some of the images. There's an image that reminded me a little bit of, I believe it was chapter 10, when Batman confronts Jason at the old wolves hideout. There's a shot of Batman with his cape up and the fire sort of glowing off of him, and that there's a very similar panel to that in chapter 12, where after the explosion happens and Batman is before he starts looking for Jason, where he sees the explosion happen. It's a very similar panel. The cape is up, the fire is glowing off against his cape and his cowl. Really great. So yeah, the artwork continues to be just absolutely beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Of course, there were some cool nods and Easter eggs we saw this week that Monica confirmed. She put the yellow bat suit in there as a nod to our friends over at the DCAU Watchtower. If you have not heard the story of the yellow bat suit, definitely check that out. They have a whole video of that on their YouTube channel. But very interesting, very meta, very funny stuff here. And I thought Jason in the Batman costume was pretty awesome. I've yet to try it out yet, but I'm going to see if my Jason head fits on my Batman, my original Batman, The New Adventures of Batman costume set there, so I can make a custom Jason in Batman costume figure. But I thought that was a unique look too. So really great. Continues to be really good. Ty Templeton he's a wizard at just creating great visuals. I thought it was cool to see the Joker in his in sort of like a mashup of his original sort of gray trench coat suit and his new Batman Adventures trench coat suit with this, of course, with the Justice League Joker design look. So yeah, the visuals continue to be stunning and great and lots of fun. Robin with a AK-47 is one visual that I will never get out of my head, though.
Well, and speaking of that scene, like the one I'll never get out of my head is Killer Croc flossing. Which is it turns out he was really ahead of his time with that. But yes, there's a shot of he's like dropping a giant pipe or something that he had grabbed, but his arms are in like perfect Fortnite dance flossing form. So I prefer to think of it that Croc created that dance in the DCAU, and he also didn't get any monetary compensation when Fortnite stole it.
Maybe that made him. Maybe he turned green with envy. All right, I couldn't resist. That was dumb. All right, that means it's about time to wrap this episode up. Thank you everybody. I think we've run it out. But suffice to say, I think once again the art is the top part of it. Again, even if you're not in love with the story, there's so many great panels and shots between Monica's colors and Ty Templeton's art there. Agreed. And the covers aren't too bad either. I love seeing, I like that they started doing these sort of digital mashups for covers, taking a panel and creating their own cover for the second parts instead of just using the same standard cover for both. But there's been a lot of great cover work also out there. You can check that out on our Instagram. Head over to DCAU at DCAU Review on Instagram. Also check us out on Twitter at DCAU Review. Liam runs the Twitter page. We have lots of conversations about Batman The Adventures Continue and everything else DCAU, plus a little bit of standard DCU continuity in there as well. Don't forget to check out and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, Apple, Google Podcasts, or on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and pretty much anywhere else where you can find a podcast, or head over to DCAUreview.com, and there you can find our entire archive of every episode we've done thus far, including every bonus episode, every past issue of Batman The Adventures Continue thus far we have covered, and we are definitely looking forward to covering the next issue. Liam, the good folks, of course, can check out our standard episodes this coming weekend. We will be covering, for our Green Lantern month, the Green Lantern The Animated Series pilot, which we are super excited to cover as part of our Elseworlds.
Absolutely. We're very excited. This is our first sort of character-focused month, and we're having a lot of fun with that. We've already reviewed a couple of Green Lantern-centric episodes of Superman and Justice League. We've got more fun stuff coming up, so definitely check out our standard episodes, and join us back here in another few weeks for what will, as of now, be the final Batman The Adventures Continue review bonus episode.
Can't wait. But until then, I am Cal.
And I'm Liam.
And we'll talk to you on the next episode of the DCAU Review.
Bye-bye.